about all the books that I read in 2023. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so very much for being here. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read in 2023. This is the second time that I'm doing this and it's amazing. I'm so happy that I'm here a year later doing another reading wrap up. It's just amazing. I love being a part of the book community. I love having reading as my hobby, and it's so fun to just sit and reflect on all the stories and worlds and just emotions and stuff that you were taken in these books. And I'm just so excited to sit here and show you guys and talk to you guys about all the books that I read. I have officially read the most books I have ever. Last year I read 25 books and that was the most I've ever read. And this year I managed to read 35 books. I read 10 more than last year. So without further ado, because this video can be quite long and I like to talk, let's just get right into the video. First things first, this is so exciting. Okay, the very first book that I read in 2023 was Normal People by Sally Rooney. I rated this a 3-star. Unfortunately, I wasn't extremely invested and in love with the book like I thought I was going to. I thought this book was gonna be like a 5-star and like one of my favorite books ever, but unfortunately it wasn't, and that's okay. That's just what happens. Then I read Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This book, I have thought about it numerous times throughout the year. I love this book so much. 5 stars. I think Gabrielle's writing is bloody brilliant. I have never read anything like this before, and I recommend this to people. When anyone asks me what book I should read, I tell them this one. Definitely search up trigger warnings. It made me sad, it made me happy, it made me emotional. I would say this was probably my either most favorite or like second favorite book that I've read this year. I started off the year with a freaking bang. I loved this book. Then I read Almond by Won Pyeon Son. I'm not pronouncing it correctly, my apologies. This is actually translated work from Japan. I love translated work and I hope to like dive into more. This book was a bit like icky and it was like pretty graphic, so I would definitely search up the trigger warnings for this one too. Then, this is like so different from just the book that I just talked about. I read The Mistake by Elle Kennedy. This book felt a little flat for me. I liked The Deal way more than The Mistake, and at this rate I have been reading a book from the off-campus series like once a year, and I definitely need to pick up the pace and just like finish the series. But The Deal I enjoyed, and The Mistake, it just wasn't anything crazy, and I read it months ago now and I haven't even felt like picking up the next book. I do love reading hockey romance. I love reading about spice. I love reading about our characters being in college. I love reading about our characters like partying at like frat parties and stuff. I want to finish the series. I want to know what people are raving about. This one unfortunately just wasn't anything crazy for me. Then I read The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose. I don't know how to pronounce her name. And I would say the book was also like a 3.75. To be honest, like 75% of the book I really enjoyed, but then the end I didn't really enjoy. And I felt like I definitely like docked a star or a star and a half. Like it would have easily been a 4-star, but the ending just seemed predictable. I like books where I'm like, I had no idea, like I did not see this coming. With this one, like I saw it coming. Then I read House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. This book was like a 4-star for me. It was so good. From the first page, I was like, what? It was so like captivating, and it was like ultimate gothic fairy cottagecore-esque. It was so good. And let me tell you this, I was in the biggest reading slump of my life at this point in time, and I needed something that was just going to get me out. So this book really helped me out. I would still say that I was in a reading slump while reading this, but this book was so captivating that it helped me get my way out of it. Not completely, but helped me. Then I needed something to get me out of this book slump. I thought to myself, who helped me get into reading? Colleen Hoover. But I know there's a bit of controversy with Colleen Hoover, and I understand it. So if you don't read it, that's fine. But if you like Colleen Hoover, this is a book that you should read. And I needed to show you the book and just stop talking. It is Leila. This book was so good. I would rate this like a 4.5. I should give this book a kiss. She got me out of my reading slump. I would say I was successfully out of it when I was done reading this book. This book was creepy. It had ghosts in it, but it was also romance. And I know you may think those are completely different genres. How can they be put into one? It was done in this one. It was so good. I really enjoyed it. Then I read Mary Jane by Jessica Anya Blau. I think either this or Tomorrow were my favorite books of the year. I loved this book so much. It was so good. It's based in the 1970s, and we're following our main character who's like 14, 15 years old, and she is in a really like strict religious family. Then she becomes a babysitter for this little girl who's like 5 years old. She's this babysitter for this 5-year-old. Her dad is a psychiatrist, and her mom is just like a stay-at-home mom. The family that she's working for decides to take in this rock star and the rock star's girlfriend to stay at their house so that they can have more frequent therapy sessions, because this rock star really needs it. 1 week like isn't cutting it. It needs to be like every day. They even get to go to this beach house for like, I think a couple days a week. Oh. It was so good, you guys. I loved it. It talked about rock and roll, which I love. When books mention music, but specifically rock and roll, I need to give the author a kiss for this masterpiece. Then I read If You Have Been With Me by Laura Nowlin. This book was like a 4-star. Unfortunately, it didn't make me cry, and I thought it was going to be like 1,000 Boy Kisses. I thought that the experience that I had with 1,000 Boy Kisses I was going to have with this book, and unfortunately, I didn't. The ending was disappointing for me. It felt quite flat. I wanted more. It felt like I was reading 300 pages to get to something that I really wanted to read, for it to just literally be like half a page of. Then I read the first book in I think my favorite series that I read this year. I read The Summer That Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. Our main character spends the summer at Cousins Beach every single summer with her older brother and her mom, and they stay the entire summer, like 3 months, at Cousins Beach with another family, with the mom's best friend. And the mom's best friend has 2 boys named Conrad and Jeremiah, and it was just so good. Like, I lived through Belly. Like, it just seemed so fun. It was so cute. This definitely was where I fell in love with YA. I would say YA is definitely one of my favorite genres, and this gave me the ultimate vibes and energy that I want during the summer. Oh, like this: the wind making my hair feel sticky, the salty sea breeze, all of it felt just right. Like it had been waiting for me to get there. I was starting to get anxiety with not reaching my goal at the end of the year. The next few books that I'm going to be talking about are books that I was trying to read just so that I can have that number on my reading goal. And now that I look back on it, now that I reflect on it, I wish I didn't, but I had to do that to then learn to not do that. You know what I mean? So although I'm very proud of myself for reading 35 books, I'm hoping that next year I can read 30 books that I really do want to read, where I am intentional with every single book that I'm reading, not just because it will reach me to my goal. So that takes me to the next book. I listened to When She Returned by Lucia Berry, I believe. Like, no shade at all, but I wish I didn't waste my time on this book. I was quite disappointed. I also didn't read the synopsis, so that's obviously my fault. I like going into books very blindly, and the majority of the books that I read, I don't even read the synopsis. And this one, I was disappointed with it. I wish I didn't listen to it. I wish I wasn't putting that pressure on myself to read. And this just, like I said, it was just like a waste of time. So then to the next book. This is on the same topic of reading books just to get to that number. I read / listened to Evidence of an Affair by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and this book, I mainly picked it up because it was really short. I think it was like 80 pages, and not that I like regret reading it, but the intentions weren't like genuine. Like, I just saw that it was short, and so I read it. I did like enjoy it, but the ending felt quite flat and predictable. I think the ending kind of ruined it for me. Then I listened to The Magnolia Inn by Caroline Brown. This book was so fun to listen to. This book takes place in Louisiana, I believe, and our main characters have this like country accent, and it was so fun to listen to. I also really enjoyed how our main characters acted like adults. I've had one book where it was like a miscommunication. I wouldn't even say it was a miscommunication trope. The main characters just did not communicate, and I absolutely hated it. They just communicated. They were mature adults, like they acted like real adults, and I loved it. Then I read It's Not Summer Without You and We'll Always Have Summer. This entire series was definitely a 5-star for me. I loved it so much. I love summer so much, and this took me where I wish I was during the summer. And if you want more thoughts and opinions and like my reactions to the series, I made a whole reading vlog, so definitely go check that out if you want to hear me talk about these more. But if you haven't read them already, I highly recommend. Like, look at these covers. Come on, they're beautiful. So then this takes me back to reading short stories just to get me to my reading goal. I just regret that I did that, to be honest. I really did, because I'm proud of myself that I read 35, but it doesn't feel right because I was purposely choosing books that were short. So one of the books was The Shakeup by Eve Michelle. I actually got this book for free during Stuff Your Kindle Day, and I don't regret reading the book. I just regret the intentions that I had while reading it. I enjoyed it. I would rate it a 4-star. It was spicy, it was fun. Our main character, she's a like head chef, and I'm happy that I was able to support like reading an indie author, like a small author. Then I read Breaking Dawn by Stephanie Meyer. This homegirl's the reason why I was in a book slump. I started reading this, I can't even remember when. It took me, I think, like 4 or 5 months to read this book. I can confidently say I hated this book. It was a 2-star. I gave it 2 stars because I did enjoy reading Bella turn into a vampire. I hated reading Jacob's point of view. I don't care. I did confidently come out as a Team Edward after this. Yep. As a kid, I was Team Jacob, and then I read the books and I matured, and I'm definitely Team Edward. It put me in the biggest reading slump of my life, and then the book wasn't even that good. We're done with that. Then I was still trying to catch up on reaching my reading goal, and I listened to Every Last Secret, and I was a little disappointed in this book. I didn't learn my lesson on not reading the synopsis before reading the book. I thought it was going to be like a thriller mystery, and it wasn't. I didn't care for it. Next. Then I listened to No Exit by Taylor Adams. 2 stars. Repetitive. Annoying. I don't know why I didn't DNF it. Then I read It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. Now I like reading about fishermen. It was so fun. Then I read Double the D by Eve Michelle. This was the second book in the series. I'm embarrassed to say that I read this book, but tell me why it was good. Tell me why I enjoyed it. I think I would rate it like a 3.5 star. It was fun to read. Then I read Before the Coffee Gets Cold. This is also translated work, I think from Japan as well. As you can see, the book is quite short, so the characters weren't really well developed. I feel like I didn't create like this good relationship with the characters and like care that much about the characters because we didn't have that much time with them. I wish maybe the book was just a little bit longer so we can get some more information and learn more about the characters. But the time travel aspect, being able to time travel, but you have to come back before the coffee gets cold, was a really fun idea and concept, but unfortunately it wasn't my favorite. I read Gong Girl by Gillian Flynn. I read this book during my Instagram Chooses What I Read, so if you're interested in more in-depth thoughts and opinions of this book and one of the other books, I'll tell you which one, then I definitely recommend you watching that video. This, unfortunately, too, was like a 2-star. I thought this was going to be more. I watched the movie after I read the book and I enjoyed the movie more, but I still wasn't that crazy about the movie. I think just the concept of the book itself, I wasn't that big of a fan of. Then I read The Help by Catherine Stockett. I love the movie The Help so much. I think it's fun that if you have a favorite movie to read then the book. The book most likely came first, so it's fun to see like where it all started, what the book is like, and like compare and contrast to the movie. I did enjoy the movie way more. I would say the movie is definitely like my top like 6 movies of all time. Like I really enjoyed the movie. The book, it felt like the beginning dragged a little bit and I wanted a little bit more of what the ending was, but that's fine. I wish the beginning was a little shorter and the ending was a little longer. Then I read The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. I would say this is like my 3rd favorite book of the entire year. I really enjoy this book. I think it's like a 5-star or like a 4.75. And this book was also a part of the Instagram Chooses What I Read. Oh, this book was amazing. I sat on the couch for hours to finish this book, and I love when books completely submerge me into the world. Our main character, Millie, works for the Winchester's house, and there's secrets that are hidden and get uncovered, and oh my god, you guys, it was so good. I did not have a single itty-bitty clue where this book was going, and I truly have fallen in love with Frida McFadden's writing. It is amazing. I want to read more and more of her books in 2024. I loved it. Then I listened to Thank You for Listening by Julia Whelan. So since I discovered audiobooks this year, I also have discovered Julia Whelan. She is very big in the audiobook world. She has narrated a lot of books, and she actually has written her own book. I hadn't even listened to any of her books at this time, but because I heard that this audiobook narrator has written her own book, it sounded so intriguing. And it was quite good. I thought it was gonna be like something else. I hate when you have like an expectation on a book, because if it doesn't go that way, then you're disappointed with the book. But that's not the book's fault. Like, just because you had that expectation doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything of like the quality and the goodness of the book. Then I read The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. Our main characters are witches, and it is so fun to read them like cast a spell and like do magic with their hands, and like it did a good job completely submerging you into that ultimate fall vibes with like pumpkins and cauldrons and like witchcraft, like magic. And I did enjoy the romance as well. I wish the romance built up a little bit more. I wish we would have waited a little bit in the romance. I feel like we got the romance quite quickly. Then I read The Housemate Secret by Frida McFadden. I actually enjoyed The Housemaid more than The Housemaid Secret. I would say this was a 4-star, and that's still really good for a book. I highly recommend this book as well. Like, I felt like it was just a tiniest bit slow in the beginning, because then at the very end it gave me what The Housemaid gave me, where it's like a page turner and you had to figure out what's going to happen and you don't want to put the book down. The Housemaid just has put this high expectation for any psychological thriller that I'm ever going to read, and it kind of sucks because then I'm just going to compare it to how The Housemaid made me feel. Because although this was a really good book, because I had read The Housemaid, it just like blew all the other books out of the water. Is that how people use that term? Then I read Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. I would say the book was a 4-star. We're going on another quest with our main character, Pip, and she is so cool. Like, she's so smart, and I really love all the characters that are in the book. I like stayed up late to finish this book because I just needed to know what was going to happen. So I highly recommend picking up A Good Girl's Guide to Murder and continuing with the series. I really enjoyed this one. My boyfriend's aunt last year gave me this stack of books to borrow, and she was just speaking so highly about all of these and telling me, you have to go read this, you have to go read this. So the first few books, these are all the ones that my cuñada, my boyfriend's aunt, let me borrow. So the first one I read was The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. This is a historical fiction. It's based in the 1930s in Texas during this drought that turns into being a Great Depression, when there's no rain, there's no food, and it was insane. I have never read a book that's like this. I really enjoyed the character development in this book, and not only with our main character who was a mom, but also with the daughter. And I also listened to The Wish by Nicholas Spark. This book, I would say it was like a 3-star. It felt, I was enjoying it when I was listening to it, but it wasn't anything crazy. It felt like we were just kind of hanging out with the characters than really doing anything. I feel bad saying that. It is alternate timelines. We are following our main character during present time, and she's actually battling cancer, and she is telling this man who works at her art gallery the story of her past. So we're going back and forth through 2 different timelines, and the past was okay. Like, it didn't seem very interesting, but the present was interesting. Then I listened to The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. This book, I was a little disappointed in this one too. I thought this book was going to be really highly rated. Like, I thought it was going to be like a 4.75, 5-star, and unfortunately it was like a 3-star. We are in Alaska having to fend for ourselves, and I don't know, like, it feels like a book that I'm not really gonna think of afterwards, like with The Wish. I think what it is that I like books that are different than reality. Like, I think I can love books that are like reality, like Tomorrow, but with these 2, they just felt really realistic and like real life, and I was just wanting to escape, you know what I mean? Then I read Talk Santa to Me by Linda Irvin. I really enjoyed this book. This was my first ever Christmas YA book. I love our main character, and I also love our male main character, Hector Ramirez. He was so sweet. Our main character was very sweet too. Our main character's family owns this holiday shop, and they also have this school that teaches people how to be Santa, and on the same street there's a tree lot, and that's where our male main character works. And I really enjoyed our best friend in the story. She was very loyal, and I also liked how funny the book was. Like, this book had me cackling. It made me laugh and giggle. It gave me what I wanted for the holiday season, and I'm very happy that I picked this book up. Then I read Kiss Her Once for Me by Alison Cotran. I would rate this book a 4-star. It gave me the Christmas spirit. Gave me the Christmas spirit, what does that mean? I feel like I'm running out of words to say. We mainly were at a cottage in like the middle of nowhere where there's just a ton of snow everywhere, and that was a lot of fun to read about. And they also mentioned a lot of Christmas songs. Kiss Her Once for Me, so that was a lot of fun too. And the mom in the book had this like laminated schedule that we were going to do for the week at the cottage, and every single day was something Christmassy, and it was a lot of fun. The last book that I read in 2023 was As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. That's my face while reading this. Holy cow! This book was an adventure. I would rate this book a 4-star. I would rate the entire series, I think, a 4-star, 4.5. I think the best way to explain this book is this book was insane. It had you by the edge of your seat. It had you biting your nails, trying to like from anxiety. Oh my goodness, it was so good. If you haven't read the series yet, I highly recommend doing so. Okay, that concludes every single book that I read in 2023. I hope in 2024 I read 30 or 35, and I am hopefully more intentional in the books that I'm reading. I hope that I don't put as much pressure on myself to read a certain number, but just enjoy what I'm reading. To more reading in 2024, to more great, beautiful stories. Let me know down in the comments how many books you read. I would love to know. Also tell me what books were your absolute favorite. I would also love to read your guys' favorite books. Like if there's any book that it's been a whole year later and you still can't stop thinking about it, definitely comment down below. I would love to read it. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!